Our sponsors for this episode are Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Absolute Drain. Look, no one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and my 2 co-partners in crime, like I said last week, to spread as much hate and discontent as humanly possible, is local businessman and entrepreneur Andy Ortiz and Chad Fry, as we affectionately know as the Kansan guy. How are you fellas doing on this
Kansan guy from Iowa?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me, we made it through the winter storm. I don't know if it was as bad as they predicted, but it's been miserably cold. We are out here on a nice, brisk, cool, blustery winter morning, I guess we could say. So what do you guys think?
I think I'm already tired of the snow, but it's going to be around for a few more days.
Yeah, I love it.
Right? Well, you know what? I might be giving snow a bad rap because of folks who do not adequately clean their sidewalks, driveways, and porches. And I'm getting tired of walking through snow to make $3 delivering your Taco Bell.
Gotta get you some of them waterproof weather boots.
So I wore mine out.
Some muck boots.
I wore my boots out. I wore them out in the last snowstorm. And I haven't replaced them yet. So
that's pretty funny. I just bought some myself.
If that's you, just know I'm getting kind of tired of walking up onto your unscooped porch.
But that's why they're ordering out, Chad, is because
I know they're no. I mean, you want to get into what's got me on my last nerve for the last few days. They're ordering delivery because they don't want to go out and drive and get it themselves. So dudes,
your orders have probably gone up.
Oh, my order numbers have gone through the roof, and I can be as busy as I want to be. All of us dashers can be, but we're not making any money, right? I mean, straight up, if you're sitting there going, "Oh, I don't want to drive in this, and I don't want to scoop my walk to get out to the car, so I'm just going to order delivery." Be willing to pay for it. I mean, seriously.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying you can't afford to do it. I'm just saying, be willing to pay for it.
I can't do it.
DoorDashing?
Yeah, I mean, the different cultures and, just being in other cities sometimes, and I break when I'm, like, out of town. And, I'm somewhere where I'm not as familiar, downtown whatever place, and I'll get some DoorDash and look at what they have. And it's cool. It's convenient. You got to still go downstairs in the hotel lobby, and at that point, sometimes I don't even want to do that. I just want to get back home.
You don't have to go downstairs into the hotel lobby. You can have it brought directly to your room.
Well, maybe it's certain areas are a little different sometimes.
At least here you can have it directly to your room. I've stood in the hallway of every hotel of this town.
Oh, okay.
See, and me personally, I like to go out and have the eating out experience if I do that. And so, do that, if I do that. But there's no end to the people that are coming in and picking up orders to take to people.
Yeah, and the same goes for your traditional delivery driver from, Papa John's, Pizza Hut. What else we got in town? Domino's. If you need them guys, pay them guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, and I hope I tip
So
reason because I don't want to go, but
if I ever see your address, I'll let you know if the tip is sufficient or not.
I'm like, we're going to put that on the back burner for one of these times when I'm like, I don't want to go. Oh, let's see if Chad's working tonight.
Pick up the order, Chad.
The pizza, around here, nobody really comes out here, the pizza delivery people, and that's usually what we do on Friday nights. We don't eat out much, honestly. We just don't, unless we're out of town or something, which then it's all eating out, right? But I'm so boring. I'll just say I was in one of the food capitals of the world here recently, and I order what is that place? Wingstop. It's like all the places and all the stuff and like literally any cuisine you probably could want. And I'm like looking through their app, and I'm like Wingstop.
Why? I like Buffalo Wild
I'm so
Wings.
boring, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta go. Okay. So
you're the guy that when you're in, for example, you're in Wichita, you're eating at Freddy's, even though we've got one right here.
I do that too much.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased towards that brand,
All right, this week, guys, there was something that's come up with the Kansas Supreme Court and a couple cases they're hearing, and so I want to just title this first part, Crime in Kansas. Okay, there was a couple weeks back that Chad and I had a conversation. I think it might have been when it was just me and Chad. I'm not 100% sure. But we talked about youth and crime and what we were seeing happen, and I even was reading a little bit about what Chief Sullivan, I think is what his name is, from Wichita Police Department, largest metropolitan area in the state of Kansas, that they were having a spike or a rise in juveniles doing some pretty heinous crimes. And the belief system behind the police department at that time was, well, you're having these older people recruit these younger people to do these things. And there's that whole toxicity that goes with that because younger people are more impressionable and they want to do what the older people want them to do. That's how people get involved in drugs. That's how they get involved in basically any type of crime. And then you could even say that's like gang mentality, but that's kind of down a rabbit hole. So we won't go there. But there's two cases that the Supreme Court is hearing right now in reference to, the Kansas Supreme Court is hearing in reference to some pretty heinous crimes that took place. And I want to say they were back, one of them was like late 1990s, and the other one was early 2000s. Okay, so most who are listening to this who are from Kansas are going to remember the Carr brothers,
right,
and the atrocities that they did. I don't know if Andy was actually living here when this happened. Were you your early college years, right?
Yep.
But it was a heinous crime involving about everything under the sun. Just
horrible.
Kidnapping, rape, the whole thing.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of crime where you put people to sleep for.
Yes, yeah. If you were going to have the death penalty, that would be one that would definitely qualify for it.
1,000%.
Another one would be Sanderholm. I don't know how many people remember that crime. That kind of just came and went. But there's Justin Thurber was the perpetrator in it, and I think her name was Jody Sanderholm was the victim. She was a cheerleader for Cali County College, I think first year maybe, and real pretty young lady. And he basically stalked her and then abducted her and then took her out and did unspeakable things to her and then eventually murdered her. Now, all three of these individuals, the Carr brothers and Justin Thurber, all got the death penalty. And we all know, that that's a long, arduous process. If you sentence somebody to life without the possibility of parole, then they're done, right? They're done. There's no really appealing that. I mean, they've got a right to appeal, but it's not like when it comes to the state wanting to take someone's life because of the crimes that they committed. So I was just thinking, this is years down the road here. I mean, we're talking 25, almost 30 years down the road for some of this stuff. And these people who are family members of the victims are just having to ride this roller coaster through and through. So I guess I go back to this question, guys. Okay, and it's kind of a pointed question, but because of all these things that are going on, would it have just been better to sentence them to life without the possibility of parole, or do you think the state should always reserve the right to put someone to death?
Oh, so we're going to have a death penalty.
Well,
debate.
I mean,
That's a hard one.
Well,
here's the cold, hard bottom line truth. The issuance of a death penalty ends up costing everyone more. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. Okay? You've already talked about Sanderholm. That was, 19 years ago. And we're still talking about her killer. We don't talk much about her.
No,
but we talk about her killer because we have all these appeals that come up. The Carr brothers were, I don't know. 2000.
I was here for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And popped off. I was like, these people are
It's a quadruple murder. And any of the coverage that you read about this, current coverage, talks about they murdered 5 people, and there was a quadruple murder in that group. Of course, they don't ever tell us who they killed. We don't talk about the victims, but we're talking about the Carr brothers, and the families. Jody's family, the Carr brother victim family, and you can pick any murder out of the bunch, right? The families are sitting there and then they're reading all this crap in the newspapers and watching it on the television. They want to be on with their lives. But we are dragging them back in. Why? Because these people had death sentences, and when we throw somebody onto death row, that's when the endless, and I do mean endless, appeals start.
So I guess I got a question about this, Kansas specifically, Chad. Okay, I because I want to toss it over to Andy, knowing he's from the great state of Texas, and in Texas,
Drive fast, baby.
They get you in and out pretty quick when it comes to that. I mean, you like Texas has no problem when they sentence someone to death for them to receive their punishment in a relatively, not going to say short period of time, but it seems like states who are serious about having capital punishment are able to get that accomplished, for lack of a better word, quite a bit faster than the state of Kansas. And when you look at when the last time the state of Kansas actually executed anybody, it was in the mid to late 70s.
I'd have to look up the exact dates, but I think you're correct.
Okay, I think it was maybe wrong, 76. But so then the question becomes, should, and I'll kick this back over to Andy with like the state of Texas. I know you hail from Texas, not that you like represent Texas, but you're a Texarkana man, right?
Yeah. I am actually.
Right. Okay. So I know these are some
Texarkana.
These are some big topics. Don't necessarily want to go into justification or whether we think we should or shouldn't have the death penalty or whatever the case may be, but more so if that's going to be an option from a state, then dragging it out for a considerably long amount of time, or them never receiving that consequence, or whatever the case may be. I mean, will any of these people were young. The Carr brothers were very young, and so was Sturber, very young. So
Okay,
that would mean that if they were to expire nationally, okay?
I got some statistics for you, and they come from the Department of Justice. The average stay in the United States for inmates on death row is anywhere from 19 to 23 years. That's the average stay, and that's due to the appeal process. The average age of someone executed in the United States is between 52 and 54. The reason that I brought all that up is So not only do you have families who are being re-traumatized and re-victimized on a regular basis because of the appeals process, we are all paying for that. We're paying for every part of that. We're paying for their legal representation. We're paying for their imprisonment. We're paying for the entire legal process. So while the families are paying with pain, we are all paying with money. And honestly, I do believe it would be better to just stick them in prison for life and forgo all of the
because when
all of the legal crap that's going to come around later.
Let's say you are a perpetrator and you get a sentence of life without the possibility of parole, unless you're a juvenile or something of that nature. There's not really a whole lot of things that can be appealed. I mean, there's a few things, but that's going to run its course.
All of your appeals
quickly.
are going to be and your appeals are going to be. Well, I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not a lawyer, but your appeals are going to be based on the evidence, based on the case that was presented. It's not going to be anything outside of the original case. Period. And so the appeals are much more limited in that than they are if you're sentenced to death.
Andy?
And they should be.
Sorry, Chad. Okay. Andy, should Kansas do it more like Texas?
Man, I've struggled with this one. My earlier years, like you couldn't put them in fast enough mentality, depending on the crime, especially if you're hurting kids. Anyways, but over the years, I've had different. Going to Bethel College didn't help.
Did whatever. Yeah.
I mean, it's arguably depending on what side of the bed I get up on. I have two monsters fighting all the damn time. One wants to go around popping people, and one wants to go around saving everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like, woo.
Oh, and
who am I feeding today?
Just for the record, in Texas, that average stay is between 11 and 18 years. Mm-hmm. Some have hit 22 years.
11 years is average.
Yeah.
Which is a long time. And then, it really hit home for me going back and forth on this deal. When I have a friend who's working in Topeka, and he called me late night one night, and I was like, uh-oh, I got to get this, something's up, because it was not like him to call me at this time. It was late. It was after 10 o'clock. And it's like, hey, bro, what are you doing? I'm like, man, just here. What's going on, brother? You okay? I'm just struggling. And we kind of had a conversation about this decision in particular and having to vote on this decision and listening to people on both sides, but his fight for wanting to support life at all cost, right? And fighting his own monsters about making a real decision that impacts people and being one of those decision makers. And that conversation, probably 30 minutes. But after listening to the reality of him unpacking days worth of testimony and watching things and going over stuff and meeting with people, he was at a different level where he just unpacked all of that activity for me and why he was struggling with it. And at the end of the day, he was struggling with not fighting for life at all cost, right? And that impacted me pretty heavily. So I don't have the answer. I don't even know what I think, honestly, at the end of the day yet. I've gone back and forth. I continue to do that even now. I think there does need to be consequences, and some of these murders are so horrific that some people, I think, frankly, just need to be put down because they're sick and they're hurting people. And that's nasty, and I know that's brash, and a lot of people in my circle of influence wouldn't like that, but I just feel that way. I just feel like, when you have somebody sitting on death row that's already tortured at that level, that's been able to take somebody else's life in the way the Carr brothers did, for example, didn't even know these people, right? They just brutally. Just the whole situation was evil.
Yeah.
Straight up. And you're like, yeah, if I was my sister, I'd want them gone. Right? And I get that. But the other thing is it should be done swiftly. It's just like when you're a kid and you get in trouble. Do you wait a year to spank your kid over it? And I know this is an extreme case because this is ending of life, which means it's over. And that's not a little deal. I get that. But when you have something as concrete as that, why are we sitting around and playing these games? Right? What is wrong with our legal system that we have to go through all these hoops? And are we bastardizing the system just to gain money for a small group of lobbyists or attorneys that do what they do in that process?
So I'm going to say something that sounds incredibly liberal, but this is just the truth.
Let it out, baby.
We knew it was coming.
The Carr brothers are still human beings. That's why we have to jump through all the hoops. Does it suck? Yes. It sucks. But they're still human beings.
Imagine going to school with a bunch of these guys having a debate.
I know, yeah.
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 It's hard.
But okay,
it's hard.
but I got a question.
It's supposed to be.
But
I got a
yes,
question.
I mean,
speaking of
that's
that,
the deal.
And that, and it's funny that you say that because that'll tie in somewhat to the last thing that I would like to have on the program today about humanizing people, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing I struggle with is, yeah, we can say that people are still humans, but if their actions dictate that they are not, right? Because what is
actions do not dictate whether you are human or not.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And why I say this is because and I'm not going to take a stance one way or the other on whether we should, whether we shouldn't, etc. I think if it's something that we are going to employ at a state level and that's what we think we should do, that it needs to be faster. If there's a process to speed that up, that's my belief system. And if we do sentence somebody to that by a jury of their peers, that needs to be, that's the obligation of the state to carry that out, regardless. Okay.
And so the premise of executing people is to basically just get them gone because they're not rehabilitatable. That's basically what we're saying. You can't rehabilitate this.
We're saying they're a lost
cause. So we've got to put them down.
Well, and I don't even think
like a rabid dog, right?
Well, and say here's this. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, Andy, because I think a lot of it has to do with the families and the victims, right? Like
so it's a revenge thing.
Yeah, like a justice. Like a justice. Like
so the just cause here or the just penalty is death.
And
so it's a justice play, not a moral play, not a scuffing out evil play, and
justice is supposed to be blind. Lady Justice has a blindfold for a reason,
right?
You know, and it's like, hey, if you do this, this is the consequence.
But is she today blind?
I mean, I don't know. I think the blinders are off.
It's hard.
I don't know if she's ever truly been blind, especially in the United States.
And I'll say this, you know, that's a great premise.
Does she exist anywhere else?
Not any better than our country, I don't believe.
Right.
Now I think there's other countries that do a lot better job of rehabilitating people. And I know that in other countries that don't believe in the death penalty, that when somebody goes out and they do what we would consider heinous thing, that their entire culture is different in the way they see it. Because like here, justice. Hang them high, take them out there.
Pop them in the street.
Whatever we got to do, because this is not now tough on crime, whether that actually works. This death penalty deterrent.
I think that should happen to child predators.
Well, and see,
other than that,
now there's, I mean, okay, so here, like okay, so my thing here is, I study people, okay, and I think there does become a point in time where even though we can look at somebody else and project onto them that they are a human being, right? I'm going to get in hot water for this, but we can project onto them that they're a human being. Does that mean that Hitler and all the atrocities that he did?
Yes, he was a human being.
So you're saying that all the people during the Nuremberg trial...
He was a fallen human being, which is why he did everything he did.
But can't we... But
But he
we
justified
are what
it
we
in
do.
the way he justified it.
This is what it goes back
as
to.
fighting for his people in a way which was even twisted if you really get into it. But even him, right? There was people that followed him because of his why and how he was able to articulate that. And because he saw the other side of his people being pushed down and basically thrown under the bus and the overtake of what he felt so he just decided, I'm going to do it bigger, better, and nastier. In his mind, he made that work.
Well, and it just goes back to, is National Socialism as a political ideology really that bad? Or is it that we've connected it to the atrocities that took place with the most prominent National Socialist Party that ever existed? So, okay. Now, I mean, we're getting deep. I want people to think.
Good luck
I want
with
people
that
to
one.
think. Well, but we talked about on the program last week, and I really want to have people
Hey, we can go all
it.
kinds of directions on this.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And so,
but
are we not what we do, Chad? Are we not what we do? Are we not what we do? I am the sum total of my choices. Do I have the ability to do something different? Yes. Therefore, I become something different. But what if I make the decision? Okay. Here we go. I'm pro-life. Okay. I'm pro-life.
You're going to get
right?
trouble for that one, too.
Let's go.
Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for the God's wrath. It is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay. So says the Lord.
And then you got to give a script. You got to give a verse on that. Okay. So here's this.
Real quick. And this what you said. And here's my thinking. If they're going to be in prison for life with no parole, putting somebody with their own evil in a cell for 23 hours out of the day
is inhuman.
To me,
yeah,
is
that punishment's more.
Let God work, or the evil that's in them. To me, that right there is where you just go, I'm not going to have it on my head for taking this person out, but they can sit with it in this space until they can't breathe no more.
Well, and there are people, now I'll tell you, there are many instances of people.
That's torture.
Because I'm here to tell you guys, prison sucks. Okay? And when I mean it sucks, it's not designed to be a punishment, but it is a punishment, right? It's not
the deterrent.
It is the punishment, not making the life of somebody in there so unbearable to punish them consistently, but almost if you've got to spend 60 years in prison of your life, that is a way more harsh consequence than putting them to death, right? And there are people that have, in fact, lots of cases where people have been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, and then they go and they commit some crime, incarcerated, like murder of another inmate, just so they can get the death penalty, so they can waive all their appeals and they can just get it on out of the way. But I want to ask a question, okay? So I'm bringing it all in here, okay? So what about people like the we are what we do, okay? If we are what we do, I know I'm not making any friends here, then like let's talk about serial birthers. Okay?
Serial what?
Serial birthers, right? People that just have child after child after child after child. That's all they're doing. That's all they're good at, if you want to look at that as a skill, okay? But then they just continue to abuse and neglect children, and they just keep pushing them out, and it just becomes worse and worse. And all these kids are in the negative, right? Because of this inhibition to be responsible with one's body and the understanding that this 1 + 1 = 2, right? Just simply. So what do you do with people like that, right? This comes back to you are what you do. I'm a firm believer in that, 100%. Are we all human at the base level? Yes, we are all human beings. But there also comes a point of personal responsibility, right? Which is it's not judging to look at somebody who's an addict and say, you're an addict. That's not a judgment call. That's discernment. And I've long been here, right? And I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but if you're somebody that goes out and commits heinous crimes, and you murder people, and you kidnap, and you do all of these things, that is what you are. You can change that, right? You can change that, but you will never change the fact that that's what you did, that's who you are, and then what you do with who you are from there. Am I wrong? I mean, I know we're
But at
getting
the end of the day,
but
yes, but at the end of the day, at the baseline level, they are still a human being. I mean, there's nothing that can change whether they are a human being or not. They're not a cow. They're not a snake. They are a human being.
So what do you think, folks? Weigh in, have a comment, something. You need to share, like, or comment on this because we know that our algorithms, we constantly cover stuff that for some reason seems to be, I don't know. I
have a movie quote that's been going through my head, and it's Red from Shawshank Redemption, which also was an amazing book, by the way. So, you know,
better book than movie.
Yeah. Oh, always. They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take. The good parts, at least. The part that matters.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So when,
much
you know, how does this
does
apply,
it
how does that
cost?
apply?
And if you put it on a scale of actual cost to put somebody and feed them 3 times a day without all the back end stuff, right?
Give me a time limit.
What would the cost be versus going through these appeals for 30 years anyways to just let somebody sit in their own thoughts?
Okay, let's do this. Okay, I just did this math. Let's say it's $135 a day. I don't know if that's what we pay for an inmate. I'm sure somebody could Google that.
The federal inmate reimbursement rate for
150?
Harvey County is like $95.
Oh,
Okay,
wow, it's
so let's
cheaper.
just take and say this.
That's the reimbursement rate.
that
I
it's-
wonder what it actually
We'll
costs.
just go. Let's say it costs the state of Kansas.
It costs the county about $85 a day.
Okay, so then let's do this. Okay,
Very little margin.
let's say it costs 70. We'll back it up. Let's say it costs taxpayers $75 a day per inmate at 365 days a year. That's 27,375 in Kansas. We're just rough number. Okay, so then if that's about $28,000 a year, and then you times that by, let's say, 10. You're looking at roughly $275,000
For 10 years.
for 10 years. So you times that by 30 to make 30, right? What would it cost to put this person incarcerated for 30 years? You're at $820,000. If you do what? Basically, you're looking at over the course of 40 years, right? If you're looking at 40 years, you're at $1 million for one inmate.
Without the appeals and without the
Yes.
court-appointed attorneys and without all the
Yes.
stuff, the court costs.
So when somebody gets the hard 40, that costs taxpayers $1 million. Now, is it advantageous for us as a society to try to rehabilitate people?
would probably make what, $36,000 to $46,000 a year on average for.
Yeah.
You go average, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the average is now, it's like right in there, give or take. But then you're thinking you're spending more
To house them, then.
than they would be producing in the economy. Which
But even
is-
then, you won't have a negative. You'd have a net positive.
But you'd have a bad person or a person that has bad tendencies, and some people are bad people. Some people are good people, do stupid things. And I've seen all the different ways that happens. So, yeah, interesting conversation.
And we're talking about the justice system, right? So let's move on to the next thing.
Well,
Go ahead, Chad.
Death Penalty Information Center and Kentucky.gov, they've done some cost analyses. And some of the cost analysis that I'm seeing here, that the total cost for appeals in a death penalty case can reach $3 million.
So for the same inmate, you're doing $4 million.
Same guy.
First is one.
$3 million.
That doesn't math for me.
Yeah.
Put them in a cell, feed them bad food, play songs of their victims over and over again.
You can't do that.
Why not?
That's cruel and unusual punishment.
You know, it's
Yeah,
it just,
they have rights. They're human beings.
if you define
See, this is the issue.
it as justice,
I'd want that package.
We're paying quite a bit for justice. If you define it as revenge, we shouldn't be bothering.
But, you know, for me, and that's why I asked the questions, for me, I'm a sick individual, and I know that I would be thinking revenge, and I think the majority of people are looking at it that way, and I love that you checked me, because the justice thing is the most important thing. That's what we should be. But I'm a human being, man, and I want you to get yours after you did what you did to me or somebody I love, and we got to be careful with how we frame this going into it, because I think it makes a difference on the outcome.
But is there something in our society right now where everybody's a victim?
I'm gonna make a statement.
We're getting. I knew this would take some time.
And I know you want to move on.
No, because we're just gonna transition a bit.
I've sat through a death penalty trial. I've sat next to the sister of a victim. Held her hand. Sat right behind the convicted murderer. Sat next to the murderer's family. A death penalty trial is ridiculously difficult. And my emotionality, because I also knew the victim, ranged everywhere from I want revenge, I want this son of a bitch dead, to God, I don't want to pay a ridiculous amount of taxes to support his freaking defense. Let's stuff him in a hole and leave him.
But I'm going to challenge you, Chad. I'm going to challenge you.
And in Kansas, in a death penalty trial in Kansas, the jury is responsible to render two decisions. The first is whether or not the accused is guilty of the crime. They said yes, he was guilty of the crime. The second decision that they have to make, and they go into a separate set of deliberations in order to do it. And let me tell you, sitting and waiting on that one, woo!
So
that's whether or not they should be put to death. A jury makes that decision.
So this topic put me on my heels, and thank you for bringing it up, because I don't know where I'm at on it. But what I would like, and I'm a pretty average dude for the most part in most areas, like majority areas of my life, I'm average. I would love to hear a pro-death penalty person and somebody that's against the death penalty separate, and let them do their downloads and then come back together and discuss it one more time real quick. That's all I'm saying. I'd love to see something like that.
Yeah, maybe we can get that accomplished.
Ooh,
I know. We did
could
do a thing with Sissy a while back, because she's a proponent of abolishing the death penalty for a plethora of reasons. But I haven't necessarily embarked on trying to find somebody that's pro death penalty and what argument they might be able to articulate. Because if it just comes down to, like, if you want to be on the program, you got to pique my interest, right? So if you're just going to be like, it's about revenge and justice, it's about justice. Well, you can only beat that drum so long. Like, articulate
if you had
why.
The best advocate. Let me break it down like this.
So we're talking about
this is the things that I hope we do as we move forward in some of these discussions, right? If you have a person that's pro-death penalty, and that's the best they can do, don't you think the majority of our people are going to go, what's wrong? Why are we still pursuing that? Because if that's the best person in that space and that's all they can do, just like a political group, if the best person in your political group can only hide and have no message, but yet want to beat people up behind the scenes for standing for things that we should be standing for, and are all about the extreme big talking points, but really have no substance on either side of the aisle, people are going to look at that and eventually go, that's not attractive to me. That's why I think so many people are going, I don't like the D and the R anymore.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And
they've washed it out.
Organizations that pursue incitement of each other based upon that, because you're only going to get an
people
extreme
are catching
on both sides.
and it takes people time, but people are sick of it. The average American, the average everyday working Americans like us are going, I'm not playing your game. And there's people that are so far in those tunnels that have overcommitted that can't see that they've done it. So now you have splinter groups popping off, trying to bring things back to the middle. And not to the middle because they don't have their values. It's because some people went off the damn rails.
Yeah.
And they're trying to script these crazy theories. And you see it happening. And you're like, wow, you're gone.
Yeah. And then the
Did I make sense there?
It did.
Like, so
yeah.
I'd love to hear a pro and then the best person that we could find, or maybe they have something online already and we can just play it, right? That get permission to do that. And then the other side, the best one, because they should have all the data, all the reasonings, not just like you're saying, well, it's just because I believe it's right because we need revenge.
Well,
it's like, that's not going to play well for most people.
And this is the way, this is too, like, you know, I know Texas. I know Texas's stance on it. If you do X, Y, or Z, we're going to put you to death.
1,000%.
So don't do X, Y, or Z. But then you get into the stats of does that being a punishment deter somebody from doing X, Y, and Z? And one would think maybe not. But then you ask the question, how can you say that? Because, well, we don't have the data to show that. We haven't removed the death penalty off the table and said, well, if you get life in prison for X, Y, and Z, to be able to have the data to show that it's
very difficult through data or research to prove deterrence.
Agreed.
I don't know how you do. I'll tell you that if I had a dollar or two for every time I've looked at it's a juvenile that I'm sitting with, I'm like, you knew this was illegal, didn't you? Yeah. Then why'd you do it? Don't care. Dude, I wouldn't be doing that crap anymore.
Speaking of juveniles,
so I mean, seriously,
in Kansas, okay. The next topic that I'd like to talk about, and we had talked about this in the past, and I truly believe that I understand somebody's a juvenile. Okay, I understand this brain development, how they were raised, a lot not having. There's a whole package here, but in the Lawrence Times, it says there's proposed legislation in Kansas that cracks open state guidelines to allow courts to sentence any kid deemed an offender to juvenile prison, reversing a decade-old effort to treat youth incarceration as a last resort. Are there kids? Because when I was growing up, if you did certain crimes, you went to kid prison. Period.
KVC.
Okay? So then that opens up, and maybe we can just rest here for the whole podcast, guys. I mean, because we have other stuff to cover, but I'm sure it's just going to continue to unfold as, you know, and it's going to be a next week type of a thing. But I got to say, I'm not making any friends here, but I think we have erred on the side of juveniles being fully aware that if they make certain, they're not stupid, okay? They're not. So even though they might not make the right decisions, if you've got a 16, 17-year-old individual, they're smart enough to know the difference between right and wrong, and then they go out and they do something that otherwise an adult would be going to prison for, why would we take off the table as any last resort, that being what takes place? Because the whole point of incarceration is you can't play well in public. You're going to do things that either are going to harm somebody else or yourself. So we remove you from society and place you in a facility that doesn't allow you to do that to anybody. Thoughts, guys? Do we need to change some of the things that we've gone down and see that the unintended consequences of trying to treat juveniles in a different way in the majority or most or some circumstances has backfired?
I put a lot of years into that world, 10 years of my life, you know. And at that time, this organization was called Youthville. And so I saw a lot of different angles on this one. I mean, hundreds. I've worked with hundreds of kids independently, one-on-one, groups of 9, 10 at a time. just in the care that I oversaw for about 50, 60 hours a week. And then I got to know each one of them and their files and their stories and how they ended up there. And it comes from all different places and all different reasons. But in my analysis, from the level of experience that I had, and working with psychiatrists and things like that as well, in that field and in that world, it all comes down to, for kids, the adults in their life, right? And I have a real hard time, depending on age, there becomes a point, because there's age groups, and I became pretty keen to know right around a certain age when a kid was going down a certain path and it had certain supports, when they were there were kids that we were able to take in horrific files, the worst in the state would come to us. And we had such a good system and team when I worked there with the group of people that I worked with, and did a lot of amazing things with that group. There was kiddos that would come in, they wouldn't win anywhere else. They wouldn't be doing anything great. They were pooping and smeared it on the walls and the whole deal. Come into us with these reputations, right? And in 90 days, be our best kid and leader at that facility.
So you think ultimately, when it comes to juveniles, in most cases, and I hate to use the word most,
a lot,
but it really is most cases, because in my experience, it has been that it does happen, right? There are children who are raised in good homes that decide, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Now, that does not mean that's, but I would say the majority of the time, right? If you check all these boxes, 2-parent home, where parents are more concerned with raising their child in an adequate way. I mean, I don't know. Our society is just shot. I mean, in so many ways.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I have a lot of hope. But what my point is the environment around that kid really matters. Even if they're struggling, and even if they have mental health issues, which most of them have issues because of the people around them. And so it just continues to compound over time. And when you don't have stable adults in your life and you're already vulnerable, it allows you to be more vulnerable and scared and act out. And these are very basic fundamentals, right? Without a core, strong family group, and with a young boy that's a little dude who doesn't have a strong male role model, he's going to find that somewhere. And when you're in a bad environment, unfortunately, he's going to find it from somebody who's probably not teaching him right.
Right.
So, these things, I don't have all the answers, but I'm telling you that kids are very moldable and pliable. It's sad that they end up in their positions, but I don't think it's at any fault of the child up to a certain point. Even then, I feel bad for people that have a bad start in life, but I've seen people go through hell. One kid in particular, dad beat him and broke his femur with a baseball bat, threw him through some walls, raped him. And this kid had a busted up scar on his face and walked with a bad limp because when he got his femur broke, and he was getting drugged and beat around and thrown through the wall when his dad was in a meth episode. He wanted to go live with dad. He missed his dad. And you look at that and you see this kid and how beautiful he was and how much potential he was and his ability to love, right? Through all that. Kids are something else, man. And they're just looking for somebody that cares about them or they think cares about them. And people take advantage of that.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So what I think society needs to do is for kids, they have a lot of grace, but there is an age where you have to start communicating. You got to take responsibilities for your actions, because my whole point is I've seen kids at 16 with all the excuses in the world to be horrible. And I got a letter from one probably 3 months ago. Do amazing things in life, Then I seen kids with good, strong families where they would come visit them, and they had a
Support system.
a strong middle class family, and they just wanted to be a gangster. And they just were, and they didn't have it. Trust me.
Yeah. They rarely do.
They didn't have it, but they were walking it out, and to the point of they were in the facility and they thought, this is me being hard. This is me being a thug, and I'm like, dude. Yet this other kid over here who just wants to go live with dad because that's the only person that they know that's done all what I just said earlier is going to go serve the world in ways we couldn't even imagine, right? And I can't tell you what makes one do it or not the other, but I can tell you that kids can make a decision even though they've gone through a lot of stuff and they're acting out in ways. One of the guys I worked with, this is one thing that he said that just I just held on to it. He said, guys, we were talking about our kids and doing our thing, right? And he said, guys, kids are really great communicators. We're just really horrible at trying to dissect and listen to what they're trying to tell us. And I was like, geez, that was such a powerful moment, how he laid it out. And when he laid it out, it was better than that.
Yeah.
But that was the premise of what he said, right? Kids are great communicators. Are you really listening to what they're telling you? Not by what they're saying, but by what's going on around them and how they're reacting to things. And are you cognizant of your own ways you're triggering that child because you're swinging your keys and you have authority? Because most of us are not there.
Yeah.
Right? We want to be the one in charge.
Yeah.
And stack penalties and stack, oh, you're not listening to me? I can do this to you. Oh, I can do that to you. Well, I'm going to take this away. Totally emotionally not
Punitive.
aware. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is taking it full circle, this whole conversation, right? And I guess we can just stay here for the end of the program and cover the rest of the stuff at some other time. I don't know. It's when I think about it, 'cause I've seen some atrocities in my life, and I'm sure there's people that have seen atrocities far worse than I ever had, and had experiences far worse than I've ever had or seen, and I have compassion for you and I empathize because, well, dependent upon your level, right? We've all seen atrocities, right? We can all empathize, humanize, and see something, or if we choose to, see something from someone else's perspective. But, you brought up something as far as like in youth, right? This change, okay? When we've got, I think something that a lot of people miss is everybody has the ability to choose to change, but you're only going to be able to do that from your current situation, right? So this, you're in this situation. This is the issue that you're having. I'll just go back to addiction, right? Somebody's in active addiction. They've built their life around this addiction, and they want to make a decision to choose to change. Your circumstance is not going to get better. You have to change, and therefore your circumstance gets better, right? And there's a disconnect there sometimes. Similar to like children, when we're talking about kids in the situation you're talking about, that breaks my heart more than anything, because kids are truly victims. But going back to full swing here, were the Carr brothers victims at one point in time? Was Thurber a victim at one point in time? And is that why they grew up to be big kids? I hate to say it.
Thurber underwent multiple evaluations
to test his competency to
Yes.
stand trial.
Mm-hmm.
And if you,
to find out if he was cognitively impaired or not.
which I would say, even though the decision obviously was made that he was
fine.
fine, I
But
question that
well,
personally.
people saw enough to ask the question, did they not? I haven't had a chance to read the 24-page bill on the expansion of juvenile sentences. I haven't even had a chance to read the 8-page summary note. So I have no idea how I feel about the bill. And I would want to read through it before I discussed at length my thoughts on the bill.
Question.
I also would really like, and neither one of us have time for it, to sit down with Stephen Owens, because he was on juvenile justice committees, to get his take on it. And in the interest of full disclosure, he and I very rarely see eye to eye 100% of the on 100%. We always are able to find common grounds, but we don't see eye to eye on stuff. So, and that's why I would love to sit down and talk to him about this, because it doesn't matter if I agree with it. It doesn't matter what I think about it. If it makes it through and it passes, it's gonna change how I do my juvenile intake work. And the very first question that popped into my head was, where is it we're gonna detain these kids? Because our overall detentionary system is overloaded.
That's scary. Really think about that.
Well, all the way around.
So I remember days when we were throwing $10, whatever we had in our pocket, $5 to put money together because they were going to take it to get pizzas at the 47th and Oliver office because there was nowhere for a bunch of kids to go, and we were trying to figure out how staff was going to stay
right
over the weekend because we didn't have placement. And that was back in 2000.
Yeah.
2001.
And on the criminal side is where we see it the worst. The overloaded system. You know, it's tough to get a 48-hour hold for court.
So here's the part that muddies the water for me, right? We're having this discussion, right? Pretty broad discussion, but focused towards that question that you asked. And there is a need. And how we take the next steps because of the question you just asked of where are they gonna be, that's when you get private and lobbying and all the stuff going on, and the system can get wonky really quick. So we've got to make sure we're protecting the intention, right? Not revenge, but justice. Because that
what is
are we doing it
justice?
just for profit? Or are we doing it to serve the youth? Right? But then there needs to be somebody that comes in with the money to do it. And we've seen in other places of how that's turned really bad. Right? So anyways, I think that's a fine balance there of how we take those steps forward if we're thinking about building facilities to deal with these situations.
There was a reform done about 10 years ago. And the reason that was done is that folks were getting really worn out and tired of booking kids into detention centers for long stays for misdemeanors. And it's straight up, I don't want to go. I don't think anybody should be interested in going back to those days.
No, and neither.
And that was the intent of the legislation that was passed 10 years ago. It was, we're using the language that detention's supposed to be a last resort. Yes, because I use the phrase all the time that the punishment needs to reflect the crime. And I've watched it firsthand. The sort of worst case scenario on every side of the coin. I've watched that kid spiral totally out of control because we could never get that kid the help they actually needed. And so they went from stealing a candy bar at Dollar Tree to jacking cars and in jail. I've watched it.
But
But at the end of the day, where our system failed that particular kid is every step along the way. We never got the help that was needed, and then they end up stuck in jail, now working at a local fast food restaurant.
But how do you help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves? And we got to wrap up and do final words. But
you don't.
How do you help somebody that doesn't think they need help?
You don't.
If I'm out here destroying my life, let's say I'm out here. Okay, I'm just saying. So you know what? That comes to carceration.
Dude, I feel like a preacher. There's biblical principle there.
Oh, don't cast your pearls before swine.
No. It's spelled out. It's spelled out when you see a brother that's screwing himself up.
You don't.
What you're supposed to do?
People fix themselves.
Yeah. But whose responsibility is it to give them the tools? And even if the tools are available,
at some point,
they still don't pick up the tools to be available.
And that's why you have to have the experience and be called to do that work, and you'll know.
So, for instance, the
process
kid that you were talking about, that had heinous stuff happening to him because of what his father was doing.
99% of Americans could not even imagine what this kid's walk was like his first 10 years of his life.
Now, do you think? And we can't read the mind of the parent, if you want to call it that in this situation, right? The father, if we want to call it that, okay? But do you think that person sits back and says, you know what? I'm doing wrong. I need help. No, in fact, most people double down on their justification of their own behavior. Okay. So anyway.
Oh, I know. I'm watching that play out too.
Case, yes. But your question was simple, and we all should be looking out, right? And some of us have gifts and others don't. We have to be aware of that. But just remember, take the ego out of it. I don't fix anybody.
No, you don't.
I'm a conduit and a tool when it's necessary for me, and God would call me to a situation and not release me if I need to do something. And it's my job to provide enough tools, given where we're at with the situation and where that person's at, and being cognizant and aware of that until they fix themselves. Because I don't fix people. People fix themselves. My job is to walk with them the best I can until I know that it's not. People want to start a business. I get calls weekly. Hey, I got this idea. Wonderful. What is it? What if we were to do this jingabawap and this and that, and nobody's doing it, and I got this plan, but I don't want to show you the plan unless you sign all these paperwork because this is going to be patented. It's going to be the best thing in the whole world. I'm going to make millions next week. Great. What do you need help with? Well, I don't know how to do this. This and that. Wonderful. I can help you with that. I tell you what, here's a book. I have a book that I give people. I have two, actually, but the first one.
Do I need to give you one book back, Andy?
Probably. You know how many people read it and come back with questions?
Next to none.
They want to build a multi-billion-dollar business in 2 weeks, but they don't want to spend 3 hours to read a book. And they think I'm being an asshole because I won't take the next step, when they don't realize I'm giving myself a release because I built it into my system of how much time I'm willing to give if somebody's willing to do the work. Because it's not about the system. It's about your mindset. It's about what you're willing to carve out. It's like, save me some freaking time here. And I hope you don't read the damn book because I don't have time. But if you do, now I'm called to do the next step. And then you're called to do the next step. And I'm called to do the next step. But eventually they stop stepping. And that's the level that they want to get to. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to do anything about that because guess who needs to read the book?
They do. It's pretty simple.
My ego's done. Yeah. Like, I'm not that awesome.
Send the book home with me today.
Yeah, I would love to do it.
If nothing else, I'm curious about what the book is.
Yeah, it's a starter pack.
Okay, final words, gentlemen.
Final words. My final words are going to come from where I started my conversation with Andy today. We have a rookie city commissioner.
Boom.
Yeah. Boom.
I'm excited, by the way.
Dude, Jason absolutely rocked the world on Tuesday night. I am beyond impressed with what I saw out of this guy in his third meeting.
That's so cool to hear.
I am so happy because every year, he said, this is my first year, and I really hate the fireworks discussion. Well, guess what? This is my, 20th year? I hate it too. And he walked into the meeting prepared with research, data, and the idea of emotion. And we'd already had more than an hour of conversation 2 weeks ago, and it was looking like we were going to have probably an hour or two again. But he had that whole thing done in 15 minutes, and he changed everything about the 2026 fireworks season. And I am just so impressed. So my final word is a kudo, and to let people know that for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, 2 things. Number 1, your fireworks show that you're doing at your house, it's going to happen on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. That's it. And you're supposed to be done by midnight on the 4th. You're supposed to be done by midnight on the 3rd. You're supposed to be done by 10 p.m. on the other days. We're not going to have 9 days of stuff this year. The other is that on the 3rd, the city is putting together a little bit of a party for downtown, and it's going to have a fireworks show, and it's probably going to be I'll probably be able to watch it from my house. So I'm super excited. But and that part of it Jason didn't do. But what he did do was get us a reasonable, rational, data-driven fireworks season for Newton, Kansas. There you go.
Andy?
Woo! What a week. Thank you guys for another great time to sit down and have a conversation. Breaks my week up a little bit. I kind of enjoy the topics that you bring to the table for us to kind of throw on the table. But at the end of the day, that's a heavy topic that you started off with. And I've been back and forth, and I'll probably continue to do that until I figure out what I really think about it, right, as I grow as a person. But one of the things that's real high level on my heart right now is a school bond. So those of you that are calling me and saying, hey, help me not pass this bond or help be against it, I'm not going to do that. So straight up publicly, I'm pro bond. I will be. I don't hate anybody that's not on my team, right? But I do have questions for those people that choose to push back against it. Fair, right? That's part of what you have to do sometimes. But I would love, instead of Facebook stuff, to sit down and have a coffee and a one-on-one conversation where we can not do this in a theater way, but we can actually sit down and I can have information and they can have information. Then we can see how that plays out. Because I'm very, very confident in where we need to go in that for our community. I cannot stand. I will put all the stuff I have to do with taxes against anybody's, with the things that I'm involved with. So it's not about that I'm excited about taxes. Yeah, I know that's a problem. I get it. But there's a bigger problem if you don't do certain things at a certain time. It's like driving a car that needs a new motor, and you can continue to ignore it, and eventually it's not going to run at all.
Right.
And
Correct.
At some point you need to make a change, right? And we're at that point. There are some things, again, here's my final here. I told this to a mutual friend of ours, Lance, yesterday. And at the end of the day, there was a group of people that spent a lot of time going over this. And it may not be perfect for everybody because it's not for me. But if somewhere in my brain, my ego is big enough to think that my 2 hours of thinking about something is better than all of them as a collective working through this over time, maybe I should think about where I'm at. I had a friend call me and said, hey, we had a meeting. Do you want to know details? And I said, I don't want to know details. I want to hear it from everybody at the table, just like everybody else, so I can make my own assumptions, and I want to see how it hits me when I hear all the information. So when it was downloaded at a board meeting, the whole kind of where we were going and what all that work went into, I was not the happiest guy in the world. I wasn't completely pissed off either, though. But at the end of the day, the next morning when I woke up, I thought, what an arrogant guy for you to think that your little 1 hour of listening to that presentation that took all of these people all of that time, do you not think there was negotiations along the way, people fighting for the middle, the breakouts, the groups, to say, hey, this is a well-rounded view of all these people that are involved, that this is where we should be going? And I thought I could live with that. I don't have to have it all my way. But there's a lot in there that I agree with. So anyways, I'm supporting the bond. I'm looking forward to supporting the bond. No qualms about it. I don't hate the people that are against it. But I will get boisterous if you don't give me details of why. Other than taxes. Nobody likes that. It's already known. And for those people that say I'm not going to vote for the bond, I'm trying to wait till he comes back because there's some stuff going on behind the scenes here.
We're stretching.
Yeah, I'm going to close this hatch off by saying this, and I'm going to have information. Like, I'm not going to get Social Security, people. It's not happening for me. But for my countrymen, I'm paying into it. So those people that say, you know, because you need your money and Social Security is a locked income, and I get it, that why should I pay for schools when I don't have kids in it and I'm not benefiting from it right now in any way? Well, I'm hoping that the kids that are going to go through school, because my kids won't benefit from it either, are going to look out for me in the best way they can, just like I'm paying Social Security now and I'm not going to get any of it. It's what I'm willing to do for my fellow countrymen. So I really ask you to think about where your heart's at when you say stuff like that, and what we have to do as a collective to the best of our ability, knowing that we are a free society. Because if it came to that and start cutting all the ropes, I'm going to be fine. I don't know about some of you guys, but I'm not worried about me. So, yeah.
My final word is this. You know, any kind of change is difficult. If you're talking about self-improvement, if you're talking about changing routine, if you're even talking about things that we discuss on a public platform in order to see somebody else's perspective and to challenge yourself as maybe what you think is going on or how you think things are not actually how they are. Or that there's at least some other way to look at it. This is not easy, okay? And this seems to be becoming more and more difficult in our society. But start with self. Going and making that New Year's resolution that you're going to go to the gym and you're going to do something better this year. You're going to eat healthy this year. You're going to exercise this year. You're going to walk that mile this year. That's the easy part. That's the easy part. To make a decision to change, to make a decision to self-improve, to make a decision to look at somebody else's perspective and consider it as equal to your own. That's easy. It's doing it that's the hard part. Get to work. You can do it.